It's a little late. We've been waiting. We've been buying time. We've been having a good time. But we can finally confidently say that joining us via the magic of Skype right now is the one and only Chael P. Sonnen. There he is, in the flesh. What is our excuse today, Chael, for your tardiness? 25 minutes late.
What's happening, buddy? I have the worst excuse in the world, which is oversleeping. Probably my least favorite thing I like to hear somebody say, but I was on baby duty, and I closed my eyes, man. I got nothing else to say.
Wow, and it's 11:30.
Except I'm sorry, I do apologize.
It's 11:30 over there. Is this your wake up for the day, or did you take a little nap?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
I was up all night.
Well, yeah.
And so I'm probably only on about 45 minutes sleep right now for the night, but I took it right in the middle of my call-in time. I apologize.
And by the way, Mazel Tov, congratulations to you and your beautiful wife for having your first child. What's it been like? What 2 months old now? 2 months? Yeah, 1 month?
I appreciate that, man. No, man, it's been great. It's 1 month. A month and 1 day.
It's a beautiful thing. Now, there's so much to talk to you about, Chael, and I got to say it warms my heart to see your face here on the show. It has been a while. I believe the last time you were on this program was our 200th episode, way back when. And I got to say, as I was talking briefly, beforehand, there was a time where I thought maybe you would never be on this show, that we would never talk again, that we would never be friends again. You know, we had a bit of a rough patch, right? We hit a rough patch in our friendship, but I think we've gone through that, and we've conquered that, and we've reconciled. But I must say, I don't know if you shared the same sentiment. It felt like this was the end of a great thing that we had going. I was a little bit hurt by some of the things you said about me, but I've gotten over it, and I still want to have you in my life. So I feel like I need to address that and throw that out there at the top of this interview.
Well, it took you a while, you know. You weren't exactly the easiest guy to make up with, and I was even sending you text messages extending an olive branch that said war between us in capital letters, that we were in the middle of a war. And you finally got a hold of me and you said, you think this was really cool. You think I wronged you and I think you wronged me. We both might be right. How about we call it a draw? So now I send you random text in capital letters that just say draw.
That is true. Truth be told, I was just getting tired of your texts, begging on 2 knees, just saying, please, I need you back in my life. I miss you. I miss you. I mean, okay. I was like, man, I didn't know I was such an important part of your life. I might as well give this guy a bone here and finish this up as you're about to become a dad. So that's really, I mean, you were very persistent, but I was ready to move on with my life, just for the record.
So I wore you down. That's what you're saying.
You did.
I wore you down and finally conquered. All right, well, good for me. There we go. I'll take it.
It's amazing.
It's a draw either way.
It is a draw either way, and I'm happy to move on from all of that. So you haven't fought in quite some time, and of course, over the last year, it's been such an interesting thing to watch your evolution. I really think that's the best word to describe it, because sometimes when a guy, leaves a sport, retires, whatever, he kind of goes away for a little bit. You're as present, as visible as ever. From your podcast to ESPN, now you're calling people up, posting things. You've got a T-shirt line, Bad Guy Inc. I mean, you really haven't taken any kind of a break. Was this all part of the plan? Did you expect to be as, present in the MMA space as you were while you were fighting?
I never felt the difference. I can remember being really busy in MMA, having shows with you and doing other things and having matches and having you ask me, go, man, what's it feel like? You're the face of the company. Everything's going great. And I used to tell you all the time, I go, Eric, I don't know any difference. My day is the same every day. My dog wakes me up at 5:30 in the morning and I take him for a walk and make coffee and I go to practice and I come home tired every day and get a little sleep and do it all over again. I remember telling you that, and it was a very sincere answer. And I can remember also doing interviews with you, go, oh, what's it like? You must be really down or lull. And I'm looking around going, man, I got to tell you, I've never been high and up and feeling great about things. I've never really been down about it. It's just my day is very routine. It's the same thing for me every day.
But you didn't have a moment where you said, all right, I need to reinvent myself. I need to think outside the box. I mean, you have thought outside the box. Podcasts, the T-shirt stuff, the phone calls. I mean, ESPN is a tremendous platform, but you had to work a bit, to remain in the space. You didn't have that moment where you sat down with your people and said, okay, this is our plan of attack. This is how we're going to do this to remain as real. I mean, you're in the Embedded. You are a major part of the last episode of Embedded for UFC 189. That's a pretty special thing. That takes talent.
Embedded's a cool show. I saw that. I really do like Embedded a lot. Not a whole lot, Errol. I mean, listen. If you're looking for a quote of some sort, I will tell you this: if you can't turn chaos into cash, you don't know very much about marketing. And I will tell you that I will create cash out of chaos every single time. And that statement's going to piss a lot of people off, which is only going to make me happy.
And it will also make Eric Bischoff happy, right? Wasn't that the title of his book? Controversy equals cash, something to that degree.
Something to that effect.
Yes.
I didn't read the book, but I think you're right about that.
All right, so let's talk about this Embedded situation. Why did you tweet out Chad Mendes' phone number?
Well, Chad Mendes messed with the bull, and then he got the horn. I talked to Chad. Here's the thing with Chad. I was trying to get a hold of Chad for a week or so. I wish I had my phone, and I would hold it up so I could show you. And Chad has an iPhone.
Yes.
I have an iPhone. So Steve Jobs, before he died, God bless him, but one of the features that he made on that phone is when you text somebody, you can see when they receive the text, and then you can see when they read the text. So as days were going by of Chad not getting back to me, I was then texting him and letting him know, hey, I can see that you've got my text messages. Must be awfully busy not getting back to old Chael. So finally, I gave him a 5-second countdown. 5, 4. I was texting this to him. 3, 2. And then he got put on Twitter. There you go.
Wow. So it wasn't the sleepwalking thing that he put out there on Embedded. This was something.
No, it wasn't. But I did appreciate that because I thought it was a real dick move. After it was already done, it was a little tough to put the toothpaste back in the tube on that one. So Chad let me off the hook, but he did get a new phone number, of which he did not share with me.
Oh wow! So he has not reached out to you. You guys haven't talked about this. You're still on bad terms.
Oh no. We've definitely talked about it. I was making a joke, but he was in the process of getting a new phone number when I talked to him, and he was cool about it. And I saw the piece on Embedded where he compared it to Step Brothers, which was pretty cool.
And what's funny about this
is he could have been a lot more upset about it.
Sure, yeah, I commend him. You have the same management, so I would imagine he'd be like, yo man, what's going on here? Why are you blowing up my spot? I'm getting ready for this fight. That didn't create a problem with your management team?
No, come on. You got to have a sense of humor.
Sure.
Now, I'm the one that's wrong in the situation. Really, really easy for me to say, but come on. If the roles were reversed, it's funny. At the end of the day, that's a very funny thing that happened.
So if I tweet your phone number this evening, you'll have a good laugh.
I would admit that it was funny. It would be very annoying. Here's what I would say, because Chad was going to tweet my number, and I just said, listen, in the name of sportsmanship, you got to get your own joke.
Sure.
Now, I do expect that I get paid back, but you got to get a little bit more creative. You can't just use my move back on me.
Fair enough. Now, speaking of that management team, Mike Roberts told me recently that he believes in his heart of hearts, you're not done fighting. You may have retired, you may have walked away, you're a year into your suspension, but it's not over for you. Was he telling me the truth?
For MMA, yeah, he's wrong about that. But sorry about that, Mike. I put an earpiece in so you could hear me better. I got like an echo chamber around me at times. But he's told me that before too. He's told me I don't think you're done. I think that there's more. So that is his opinion. He wasn't just talking out of school on that one. But I am not going to fight again if that's what you're asking.
So he's not telling us that, I mean, his gut is not accurate. You're done fighting. You will not fight again.
I am done fighting.
You ever get the itch? You were talking to BJ Penn about it last week. Sometimes it's hard for him to watch because he wants to, be in there. What about you?
Who told you that?
BJ Penn, little name drop.
Oh, did he? Yeah. And I wish BJ would fight again. Yes. To your question, do you ever get the itch? Yeah, I think so. But for many things, when I left amateur wrestling, I watch it all the time and always get the urge to be part of it. But I have a lot of fantasies and goals like that. But no, I'm not going to return to the octagon.
I've been talking about you a lot lately, and perhaps that's my subconscious way of missing you and trying to draw you back to the show. And by the way, I'm impressed that you're on the show because I know you never like to do this show, so it's a great honor for me to have you here. I've been talking about you a lot because I keep comparing the Conor McGregor Jose Aldo situation to you and Anderson Silva, if only because I feel like you did more for Anderson than Anderson did for you. You propped up Anderson. You gave him that foil that he had been lacking for so long, and that's what Conor did to Jose Aldo. Do you see the same similarities there between the two?
Yeah, that's absolutely how that happened. I don't know in the final analysis if I did more for Anderson. He was very helpful for me too. We both needed that dance partner, but Anderson was a very poorly drawn champion, and he was a fantastic fighter, and everybody respected him. But he didn't have that base tuning him to watch him. Roy Jones Jr. had that same problem as a boxer. He never had that opponent. He was number one ranked and all of that stuff and all that crap, worthless pound for pound, and he had it all, but he still wasn't business wise having the greatest luck for a guy with that success. Jose Aldo is in that same spot. The guy is an amazing talent, and he's a poor drawing champion, and it's a little bit confusing, but it's not like making a batch of cookies, man. You just if you throw all the right ingredients in, you're not guaranteed that the recipe is going to work. There's an it factor in this business, and where Jose Aldo misses it, I'm not totally sure because he is a fantastic talent. He's a handsome dude. He's been around a long time. He's got all those things you throw in the pot, but the cookies just don't turn out right. And this would have changed. Conor McGregor was that missing it that batch needed.
You threw out the term long ago, make that walk. It's a part of the MMA lexicon now. Aldo's not making the walk on Saturday. Are you surprised?
Yes, I'm very surprised. Business wise, Jose Aldo can't do an interview where he doesn't bitch about money. It's been coming up for years now. He's complaining about money. And this was the big money fight. This was the biggest money fight of his career. And it will never be back. He could get this fight again down the road, but it won't have the buildup and it won't have the same payday. So from that regard, I was surprised. Now, I want to make sure I'm responsible about this because, Eric, you never, ever kick a man when he's down. And if Jose Aldo broke his rib, that is so incredibly painful. You add on to it everything that I just said, that he'll never have this kind of fight again. He'll never have this kind of payday again. In those regards, he's really down, and I don't want to pile on him. I also can't help but be very surprised that he didn't continue on with the contest. And we're getting mixed reviews. Some doctors have looked at that X-ray that he put out and said that's not a broken rib, that's a crystallization of cartilage, and it starts to get a little bit complex in that regard. I'm looking at it going, I don't know a whole lot about medicine, but that's a broken rib from my living room where I'm looking. So, if he really suffered a broken rib, man, you just can't fight with that. At times, it's too tough. And let me tell you the underlying story here, Errol. And Jose's never brought this up, but he should. I've suffered rib injuries, but I've never had a broken one. I've had dislocated and popped, and even that, which is a big step down from broken, it hurts so bad. But you can't really move. You can't even fully breathe and take a deep breath of air. So the point is, how's he going to make weight? How, if he can't move around, Jose Aldo's a big guy. He's been talking about moving up to 155 pounds for a couple of years now. That's how big he is. He's not getting any smaller as time goes on. So when you're that big and you can't make weight, you can't move to get those pounds off, there's no way that you can make the walk the following night in a championship contest. So I think that's probably really the underlying story here. And I haven't heard Jose bring it up, but as a fellow athlete, I think that's what really happened.
And then how about putting in Mendes when, of course, the big money fight is Aldo, risking that, with a wrestler against McGregor? A lot of people think wrestling is kryptonite and it's going to be a big mistake. Do you think that this is too big of a risk on the UFC's part?
No, there's no risk, man. The show's got to go on. You never preserve something for tomorrow in a business like this. I mean, I could go back just recently this year. We were never supposed to see Daniel Cormier versus John Jones. It was supposed to be Gustafson's fight, and Cormier was supposed to sit back, and that ended up doing record pay-per-view numbers. You win the ones you can win when you can win them. And that's it. And you don't plan for these future fights. And that's all speculation and done by the media. But on the second floor at the UFC where the decisions are made, man, you take what you can get when you can get it.
All right, that's an interesting insight. You had a chance to hang with Conor McGregor in Bristol recently for some shoots for ESPN. Some have aired, some will air. Was that your first time meeting him in person?
No, he had come out to Fox a couple of times. He was on UFC Tonight at least once.
That's right.
And yeah, and I met him some other times. I hung out with him at a fight one time. I did a Q&A in England, and it got ransacked. What do you call that? It got crashed. The Q&A. I was on stage in England. And a drunk Michael Bisping and a drunker Conor McGregor get handed microphones, and they storm the stage. And it turned into a very fun and kind of a classic evening, actually, if you ever go back and find the video. So, no, I knew Conor before.
So my colleague, Chuck Mindenhall, wrote a very nice feature about your day in Bristol. It was posted yesterday on MMAfighting.com. I'm not sure if you saw it, but he noted that there was, for lack of a better word, this sort of strange tension between you two. Like you didn't really hang out or talk to each other. Is he onto something here? Is there that between you two?
I sure didn't feel it. I had a lot of fun with Conor and with Chuck. I thought Chuck was great too, but Chuck was an observer. Sometimes the observer sees better.
Yeah.
The coach can see better sometimes than the athletes that are in it. But if there was, I sure didn't know it. Now, I did have a conscious effort to kind of stay back and leave him alone. I have been in his shoes before, and it's very exhausting. And it wasn't any different out there, man. He was getting pulled in all sorts of directions. He had 2 hours of sleep. He was an hour late to the set, and I'm glad he was. If he wasn't, then he would have had an hour of sleep. They started filming at 6:30 in the morning East Coast time. He had flown in from the West Coast, which jams him up 3 hours right there. He's got his diet going on. When we get to the set and we film these different segments, he got through what ESPN calls the car wash, and that's where they just run you from show to show to show. So he's very busy just with the ESPN obligation. And then media had been given passes, such as Chuck, to come in. So on any kind of commercial break or downtime, then he's getting pulled in different directions for MMA media. So in the process, his phone's going off. He's tired. He was telling me his schedule. He had to leave from Bristol to go to New York for the Reebok deal, to go to L.A. for the Conan O'Brien deal, to finally go back home. And he's now refused all media up until the fight. So he thinks. I can assure you he's going to be doing more media before the fight. But he put his foot down and said, I'm done. So I think the way that compromise will work is whatever he does, he'll be doing from Vegas. So, I did try to cautiously make sure I gave him whatever space that I could. But that was still limited, man. If I wasn't talking to him, somebody else was.
So when people say he's the second coming of Chael, that he uses your material, all this stuff, is that a compliment to you? Do you feel like he's not on your level as far as selling fights, being a showman, all that stuff? How do you feel about it?
No, he most definitely is on everybody's level, I mean, he's forging his own path. He's going in a slightly different direction. But, no, there's no insult there. And I'm personally entertained by it. I thought he was great. I thought another guy that was greatly underrated for his time was Rampage Jackson, though. I thought that Rampage's stuff, all the way back from his Pride days, was very entertaining. And, so I like that stuff. I get into it, and I appreciate it. And, I know he's got to work hard to do it. And at some point he's going to need to settle down and refocus and go out and have his fight.
What do you mean? You mean in the future, or do you think that it's getting to be a little too much right now?
Oh no, it's crossed the line of being too much. I mean,
Really?
that's just a reality to the situation. Yeah, athletes go out. We're kind of programmed to say the things we think we're supposed to say. It's too much on Conor right now. and media will ask him that. Is it too much? And so you don't want to put some of those things into your world. You want to deny them and keep them out so you can take care of business. But yeah, of course it's too much. When a guy's on a opposite side of the country and he's got 3 more stops before he can get home, he's 22 pounds overweight, he's 9 days before a fight, and he's running on 2 hours sleep because of all of it, it's too much.
Was there ever a point? I know you mentioned in the article. Oh yeah, the spending is a little. It's troublesome, if you will, because you see a lot of athletes run out of money. You weren't that same kind of guy. He's kind of like 1980s Ric Flair, if you know what I'm saying. Like the fancy clothes and all that stuff. You didn't have that same sort of style, but did you ever have a point where you had to kind of correct yourself? Oh no, I'm spending too much. I'm living this stuff because you had worked so long to make the big bucks.
Yeah, no, I never had to go through that, but I think to your point, it's because it didn't happen for me till a little bit later. When you're a young man, you do a little bit of that. I see guys do it all the time. You spend it like you're always going to make it. Ric Flair did it, to use your example, but it's pretty common, and particularly with younger men. So I think that Conor's in that phase a little bit, and he's having some fun, and he talks about it, man. He says that he blows it all, but he says that's how he stays hungry and keeps himself motivated to go out and win more. So whether he's having a good time or it's just good old-fashioned irresponsibility, I'm not really sure. Time will tell, but I didn't personally have to go through it, no.
Are you in favor or against the Reebok deal from a fighter's perspective?
Against the what?
The Reebok deal coming into play this Saturday for the first time.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I left right before this announcement came out. I've been out a year. I was given a 2-year suspension in July, so I'm literally halfway through it. And I think they announced Reebok in either July or August of last year. So I just missed the boat, man. I don't have a lot of details, but I can tell you it makes sense. The sport was certainly headed that way. It cleans the sport up a lot. I think those are some of your motivations as leadership to do it, to go out and really establish something and get some of those other brands out of there just from a visual perspective. Because don't forget, we are a show. People forget that constantly. They talk about the sport of MMA. MMA is a sport this much. And all the other 99% is this is a show. This is visual. So this cleans it up, and this really helps things. As far as the business side of it and cleaning up and making sure guys' sponsors are organized and their checks come in on time every time, that's a really good thing too. So I would imagine everybody's broad strokes here, but they're pretty happy with it.
So some might say the origin of our rift was PED use in MMA. And we battled over this for quite some time. How do you feel about the UFC linking up with USADA?
The origin of you and I?
Yeah, you and I.
Hooking up with this, let's just see how it works out. I think if you're looking for an agency to come in and test guys, you're talking about the gold standard there with USADA. So in that regard, it's going to help a lot. I think with anything, you're going to run into some roadblocks. You're going to hit some speed bumps that you didn't see coming. And so, let's have this discussion down the road and see how some things go. But it was a big move. It was a big and bold move. They're testing the professionals the way they test the amateurs. And, I don't think you can find a better partner out there in the world of drug testing than USADA.
A lot of fighters upset about IVs being banned come October. Is that something that you use a lot? I mean, I feel like this is something that a lot of wrestlers use, right?
Yeah, and we were sanctioned by USADA as well. USA Wrestling, the governing body for wrestling, we were sanctioned by USADA. And you come out of the weigh-in, and there'd be a whole, it'd be like an army tent, if you will, set up where guys would then go and get their IVs right there on location. So I don't know when that rule came into play, and I would imagine that, again, that's a broad stroke because USADA tests are for the supplements you put into your body, not how you put it in. And an IV is a level of administration. I would have to imagine what runs through those tubes and into your vein is what matters, not the actual IV itself. If somebody needed to rehydrate, those are medical orders. I don't think that USADA would stand in the way of a doctor's opinion if a guy was dehydrated. But I did read the headline of the article that said flat out IV. I got to imagine there's some fine print there.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, in the WADA code, it is banned for rehydration purposes. They said they're going to give the fighters until October to, figure it out and see if they have to change weight classes. So I think that's going to be something interesting. As Dan Lambert put it earlier in the show, he suspects that things might evolve over time. So we'll see about that. Now, let me ask you, are you going to Las Vegas this weekend?
Wait, Aaron, you're saying that there is a rule, there is a WADA rule that they are subject to, that they've suspended the rule until October? They just came in and said, hey, this is a rule, but we're going to ignore it for a few months?
Essentially, yes.
With what authority? With what authority do you suspend a rule?
Well, this is coming from Travis Tygart, who told ESPN.com's Brett Okamoto that when they traveled, Jeff Nowitzki, the individual that the UFC hired from their perspective to lead this charge, traveled to a bunch of gyms and informed the fighters that the IVs would be banned come July 11th, right? When this all comes into play, there was a big concern brought up by the fighters, and now they've said, we'll give you to October to figure it out. So yeah, to a degree, you are right. They are suspending it. Do you have a problem with that? Because you're picking and choosing, right?
I don't know. I have a problem. Well, they're definitely picking and choosing. I just didn't know you could do that. I didn't know with what authority you could do that with. I relate it to laws. I know for laws, whether it's federal or here in Oregon where I'm sitting, no, one person cannot come in and suspend the law. They'd have to enforce it and say this is the law whether you like it or not. So I like it. I think it's a civil way to handle things. Sometimes you do need an education or a gap period. It makes a little bit of sense, but I didn't know with what authority you could do that with. So, all right, you just told me something. I didn't know that.
Will you be in Vegas this weekend?
No, we will be covering the fight from Bristol, from the studio. And we made a big push to come out there. And by we, I mean us analysts and the crew. We all wanted to do an on-site in Vegas. And ESPN will do that if it's a big enough fight. So we thought, well, for sure, we're going to be coming to Vegas. And I don't know if with the change in Aldo versus Mendes or if there was some other logistical error, but all I know is we will be covering it from the studio, live from the Sports Center studio in Bristol.
Do you ever get nostalgic? I mean, when I think of this weekend, I think of you versus Anderson 2. I mean, that was a tremendous moment for not only you and Anderson, but for the UFC, the sport. That weigh-in was just unbelievable. Do you ever get nostalgic and say, man, oh, God, I miss those times. I wish I could go back to that. Do you ever think like that?
Yeah, pretty much the only joy I had in the sport is from memories like that. At the time that you're in the sport, it's very hard to enjoy it because, the life that you're leading is a lot like the one that Conor is leading right now that we just talked about, where it's no sleep, it's no rest, it's no fun, it's go, 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 people pulling at you in every direction with the stress of the big match coming up, with the weigh-in, with taking care of the competition itself. So it was never very fun. There was never a point where you could, sit back and smell the roses, if you will. It was always go, 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 go. And so, yeah, I think I do look back a little bit, and the memories are fonder for me than the experience itself was.
Yeah, when I think back to this weekend as well, that's when we had our famous black and white sit down when you came out after your issue after UFC 117 and the whole thing with the Nogueiras and the bus and all that. I mean, we had some nice memories on this weekend in particular. That's why I think it's nice that we've reconnected this early July.
Draw. We called it a draw.
What about the decision that went into making me your first official guest on your highly successful podcast? I mean, you knew right off the bat you needed to come out. You could have gone to anyone, Stone Cold, Vince McMahon. You could have had any guest possible, Dana White, but you went to Old Helwani. Why is that? Why did you think that would be the best move?
Well, and I was right. Hindsight's always 20/20. I was right. Ariel Helwani was the best move. One, I've always enjoyed working with you. Two, I consider you a very good friend. But three, you're a master in this space. You're a guy that is kind of like a military soldier. You can give orders, but you're also very good at taking orders. You can go both ways. So I thought, well, who better to have on my first attempt in some kind of a journalistic space, at least, than the journalistic master himself. So
Oh, wow.
I gave you a call.
So now I'm a journalist.
Well, again, I called it space, and that wasn't so much to slide you as much as I don't want to be brought in to that fake world of MMA journalists out there.
Sure.
I will stick with being an entertainer.
Do you enjoy interviewing people? Do you enjoy being a host?
I don't like to interview people. I love to have conversations with people. I love to have somebody on that I find interesting, and then just go out there and visit. But no, I don't like. And it's turned into that before, man. I've had some guests that, I thought after the fact, why didn't you just say no? When I asked you to come on, if you didn't want to come on, why didn't you just say no? But I'm not the FBI, and you are not under subpoena to be here. Don't make me pull these things out of you while shining this bright light in your face. Just text me back and tell me no. But make sure you text me back.
Sure.
Chad Mendes.
Favorite interview thus far since you launched the show?
Oh,
or favorite conversation, I should say.
Yeah, Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette was my favorite guy to just sit down and listen to. More than to talk to was to sit and listen to. He had a ton of stories. Now, I'll tell you one that I was very excited for, and almost too much, was, do you watch The Office? I'm a huge fan of the old NBC hit The Office.
Yes.
Okay, I had Rainn Wilson on, who played Dwight Schrute.
Oh, wow, that's a big one.
Yeah, it was a great one, and it wasn't a terrific interview. I don't know him. I don't know what his interests are. So talking about stuff was a little bit more difficult. But for me, it was a thrill because I watched that show so much, and I'm so into his character and his career. So that was kind of a kick to have him on.
Dream conversation. Who's the guy, the one guy that you've said from the beginning, I need to get him, you haven't gotten him yet? Or a woman, I should say.
A dream conversation. I don't know. I've had a few of those. I've had 6 months of shows at four shows a month. So I've been able to talk to quite a few people that I've wanted to. But I have one tomorrow that I'm recording that'll drop tomorrow night. But I'm gonna have Mick Foley on.
Oh.
And Cactus Jack, Mankind. How incredible is that gonna be? So. That'll be a lot of fun. Talking to those wrestlers, particularly the ones that are retired, is great. When they let the curtain down, they discuss the psychology and things that they think could be implemented in MMA that are and were implemented in the world of wrestling and entertainment. So I always learn something through that. Not only do I get to hear some great stories, but I get to learn something myself. So I'm looking forward to Mick.
Who wins, Conor or Chad?
Who wins, Conor or Chad? Boy, I got to think Chad Mendes wins that fight. And if it's competitive, even I would, I'm gonna have to see it to believe it. But I just watched some Conor McGregor last night. I rewatched his fight with Dennis Seaver. I had watched that live initially. I resaw it, and then I went and I watched his fight with Poirier, which I had missed the first time. I'd never seen it before, and as good as I remember Conor looking in the Dennis Seaver fight, he was better, almost twice as good as what I remembered. I remember him going out there and dominating that fight. I thought he got taken down a couple times. I was wrong about that. Seaver did kind of tackle him and off-balanced him, but it was never a takedown. Conor's hips came right back out. He came on top. His punches were good. His kicks were good. He changed his stance. He was a little bit awkward. He's better than I thought he was. And that happens in MMA. I remember John Jones. We had to see him fight repeatedly to buy into it and go, oh, okay, he's just this good. John Jones was beating guys so handily that we all chalked it up to, oh, he must have had a good night, or, oh, that other guy had a bad performance. It took us a while to realize what we were seeing. That could be the case with Conor McGregor, but all the same, I'm not there yet. I look at him and I go, that there's a talented guy. I don't look at him and say, man, that's a great skill set. So, just because I have an expert view on things and I've been in the sport for so long, I'm like anybody else, man. It takes a little bit of time. So if he can pass the Chad Mendes test, I don't think there's too many more questions out there that he's a great fighter. Right now, he's a very good fighter, but that's it. That's as high as you can go with it for right now.
Final question, and I appreciate the time very much. It's a two-parter because this almost kind of feels like my retirement interview with you because I never had a chance to talk to you after you retired. And I'll be honest, I miss talking to you, and it's great to have you back, and I hope we can do it again in the near future. I want to know from your perspective, you may have talked about this, you probably did, but I haven't heard it. What is Chael Sonnen's legacy? When it's all said and done as far as MMA fighting is concerned, in your opinion, what do you want your legacy to be? And what was the high point? Maybe not the thing that we all kind of saw, witnessed. I mean, there's the obvious with Anderson and all that. But in your mind, when you think back, what was the moment that was like, man, I am living the dream here. I can't even believe this is all happening to me.
Wow. The second one I'll probably need a little time to reflect on. So I'll give you an answer today with the right to reserve a change, because I had a lot of great memories, man. I had a lot of great experiences. I don't think I've ever had a better experience in the sport than coaching the Ultimate Fighter. I got to do it twice, but I got to, really build relationships there that'll last forever. I stay in contact with every one of those guys, contact with the coaches, contact with the opposing athletes and coaches. So those were definitely the highest points that I ever had was coaching the Ultimate Fighter and being given that opportunity. And as far as legacy goes, there was a time in my career I would get asked that, Errol, I'd get red hot. I mean, there was a time in my career everything pissed me off. Any question you asked me was going to set me off one way or another. But that one specifically, because I never got it. I had to deal with these other guys sitting around talking about their goddamn legacy like anyone should give a damn about them. I graduated high school. I loved high school. I donate to my old high school. I coach I do anything for my old high school. But the last thing I'm going to do is wear a goddamn Letterman's jacket around when I'm out of high school. And there's guys that do it. Look, when you move on from something, move on. And sports are for kids. If you're able to stick around a sport and do it as an adult, if you're given that opportunity, you made that kind of commitment to it, that's all house money. But these guys that cling to it and want to be remembered for something they did in a kid's world, in a kid's sport, that's a weird thing to me. And I never wanted to get trapped in that. I thought, I'm going to be a fighter for a very limited time, and then I'm going to have to move on and do real things in life. Be a father, be a husband, be a member of the community, and do these things that really matter, not some sport that I go do in a steel cage 3 times a year. And I was very defiant that I do not want to hear about somebody else's alleged legacy because I compare it to the guy out of high school riding around in his Trans Am with his old Letterman's jacket on. I don't want to be one of those guys. When time passes and you come through it, though, you do have things that you were proud of. And, I was very proud of the fact I would fight anybody at any time, period. And I would never come in with an excuse. And if I had a broken rib, you damn sure would never know about it. If one of my teammates came out and did an interview about how he broke my rib, he's no longer my teammate. It's as simple as that. I would never discredit the sport or my opponent by reading my injury list before or after the fight. I've always thought it was a very underhanded thing to do. And it's a very cowardly thing to do, to come out and say, I'm hurt, particularly if you win a fight. I've seen guys winning fights and then come out and say, yeah, and I did it with a broken arm, or yeah, and I did it with this knee, and you're turning on your opponent. Your message there is very clear. You're saying I beat you, and had I been healthy, I would have beaten you even easier. So, as far as the legacy goes, the one thing that I was proud of was that I would always compete. I was looking to compete. I was never a bully. I would take on anybody at any time. And if that was the number 1 guy in the world or that was the number 100 guy in the world, it didn't make any bit of difference. If somebody wanted to fight, I would show up and fight.
Amazing. There will never be another Chael Sonnen. An amazing answer, and it exceeded my expectations. By the way, anyone ever reach out to you to be a promoter of sorts, to run their organization? I'm surprised that hasn't happened.
I've actually been promoting fights since 2001. I've held over 100 events. I'll tell you this, Ariel. There's two organizations on the face of the planet, and feel free to correct this statistic, you or any of your fans, but there's two organizations on the face of the planet that can date themselves back to 2001, Zuffa's and mine. Not one other organization, amateur or professional, has withstood the test of time. And I've made that statement before, and Terry Treblecott came forward and said, well, King of the Cage was actually around in 2001 as well. But that was a totally different business model. He was loaning his names to casinos. That's totally different than going out and bringing in fans at a live gate. So nobody understands this business like I do. You've got the boys at the UFC in the leadership role, and then it's me. And I know this sport inside and out. Well, I've promoted it. I participated in it. I've coached it. I'm proud of those things. And our organization out here will continue to thrive. And we've created 15 fighters that have gone on to fight at the UFC. One judge, one referee, and one timekeeper. And they all started our little promotion out here in Oregon, and we're very proud of that.
Chael, we have taken up too much of your time. I appreciate it greatly. It means a lot to me that you would come on the show. I thought for a second that you pulled the old switcheroo on me and you wouldn't show up after you said, but I knew, no matter what, you were always a man of your word. You always showed up when you said you would, so I appreciate it greatly, and I wish you the best with your new venture as a father, both to you and your lovely wife, and I hope we run into each other soon. It has been a while. Great to see you, though. Thank you so much for the time.
Let me leave you with one final word.
Yes.
Draw.
Kaboom.
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
That's not the word.
Okay.
Here's the word. Kaboom.
There he is, Chael Sonnen. Great stuff as always. You gotta love it. All right. We went a little overtime there. I apologize. I look at my email and I see a UFC statement on Gilbert Melendez. So let us read that. For all of you, following his bout at UFC 188 in Mexico City on June 13th, UFC lightweight Gilbert Melendez tested positive for exogenous origin of testosterone metabolites. The UFC has a strict, consistent policy against the use of any illegal and or performance-enhancing drugs, stimulants, or masking agents by our athletes. As a result of the positive test, Melendez has accepted a 1-year suspension effective from the date of the bout for violating the UFC fighter conduct policy and promotional agreement with Zuffa. Regrettably, I tested positive in my post-fight urine sample for UFC 188. I did not inject anything, but I am responsible and accept the consequences for the results. I will make sure I am better educated about the products I use and their implications. Going forward, I will ensure no products I use will contain banned substances. I'm sincerely apologetic to everyone who supports me, including my fans, sponsors, and the UFC. I value your trust and respect and will do everything in my power to keep it. Melendez will no longer compete as scheduled on July 15th. UFC officials are currently seeking a new opponent for Ally Quinta, who was scheduled to face Melendez. Wow. Shocking news there. Breaking news there. And that is courtesy of the UFC. Just sent 12 minutes ago.